Welcome. It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We're in Sacramento today, and he is back. He is Bob Hertzberg. He is now a member of the California State Senate. He's been gone for 12 years.
12 years.
Talk to us about your new job. You were Speaker, now you're a Senator.
Now I'm a Senator.
Tell us about it.
I'm back. It's a lot of fun. I'm working hard. It's different, you know. Technology's different. I mean, when I was there, when I first got elected, we had pagers that were phones that were size of bricks, right? There was no Google didn't exist.
Of course.
Totally different.
What made you decide to come back? I mean, you have been doing great work worldwide, not to minimize the great work of Sacramento, but what made you come back?
Well, I'll tell you, in traveling the world, I met with a number of national leaders. I remember talking to Sarkozy in France and Cardozo in Brazil, and they're all talking about how great California is. And I just think, as I saw us, I worked on the 50% plus one on the budget, on term limits, on redistricting, things to build confidence in government that level the playing fields, you know. And so I've had a great life. My kids are older, doing fantastic. And so I just looked at it and said, there's a window to do something. Do I have a 5% chance? I'm going to do it. And I'm going to work on the big issues. I'm not doing the small stuff. I'm not doing the transactional stuff. I'm going to engage in the big think, long-term thinking, and ask the hard questions.
So let's talk about the big issues, because when you look at California, one of the biggest issues right now is, while our economy is doing much better than it was a few years ago, that rich-poor gap, sir, is growing.
It's horrible.
It's really stunning to think how the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, not to engage in, quote, class welfare, but the numbers speak.
That's right.
They speak for themselves.
That's right.
So you're looking at that issue.
Big time.
Tell me.
Big time. Think about this, right? We have the most progressive tax structure in the country, and we have the highest rate of poverty in the country. There's a problem. And so what I did on day number one coming into the legislature, which ties into this rich-poor dynamic that's going on, this growth of capital as opposed to the labor growing at a much more anemic rate, is to sit back, we call it the Upward Mobility Act, to say we're going to invest in those elements of the economy that give people an opportunity for upward mobility, education and infrastructure.
But is the problem with our tax code is it's too progressive? We rely too much on the wealthiest?
No, I mean, it's a little bit part of it, but the real part of it is it's just yesterday's news. It's a horse and buggy system for a Elon Musk rocket ship, right? It just doesn't work anymore. 80% of our economy are services, and we don't tax. We tax 27 services. 49 other states tax services, but it's a little nuts. And so you get these wild distortions that talk about hurting poor people. You know, I don't know about you or me, but when they cut off programs for the state, it doesn't really affect us and our families, but it affects a lot of people we care about.
So at the same time, we look at services, and like you said, we are not a state which deeply taxes services. You're looking at whether we should spread out the taxing of services. Are you looking to decrease the sales tax but spread it out?
Well, there's sales tax on goods. When you go to the store and buy a stereo, you pay a sales tax. What I'm looking at is sales tax on services, because that's 80% of the economy. And that will create money. But that's not the only piece. But I want to reduce personal income tax from 9 rates to 2 or 3, and then reduce the corporate tax on the small businesses so they're less burdened. And what you get is an intelligent, equitable system that will grow with the future of California.
So let's take each one. Let's start with the sales tax. Like you said, you want to spread it out so that services are covered. But there's got to be a secret sauce. There's got to be a secret number there. Because obviously, if you just spread it out and keep the sales tax rate at the rate it is now, I mean, look, I'm sure the state would love to have all the revenue, but that's probably not palatable.
Well, it's not really going. First of all, when you look at sales tax on goods, it's a nickel that goes to the state, and the rest goes to locals to pay for transportation or something else. So if you get 9 cents sales tax when you go to buy something at the local store in San Jose, your 4 cents goes to local jurisdictions, a nickel goes to the state. This is a capped at a nickel maximum, maybe less. We don't know. We're examining what those rates should be. Second, we're exempting education, we're exempting healthcare, and we're probably going to exempt other things that ordinary folks have to have every day. We don't want to put the burden, like we don't pay sales tax on food, right? We're not going to pay sales tax on rent. There's a bunch of stuff that you don't want to burden people with.
But how do you, and look, you're a tactician, once you start exempting one thing, every single special interest walks on and says, exempt us please, exempt us please. So how are you going to find, as I call it, the secret sauce, where there's a theme, there's a defensible theme?
Well, that's it. It's really about a defensible theme. It's about entertainment and luxuries being taxed more. When it's the notion of consumption tax. We had Professor Auerbach from Berkeley Berkeley, who's a very celebrated fellow, do a paper for us at the Public Policy Institute of California looking at consumption tax. We've been looking at it around the world. This project that we started came out of the Think Long Committee a number of years ago with people like George Schultz and Condoleezza Rice and Eric Schmidt from Google and Eli Broad.
So bipartisan?
All bipartisan, 100% bipartisan. Eli Broad, Willie Brown, Gray Davis, Ron George, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
So let's talk about the personal income tax. That's what you describe as the wild fluctuations. In boom years, in capital gains years, we saw a lot of money coming in. In years where we don't have those capital gains, we see less money coming in. What are you looking to do on that element?
Well, the element on the personal tax, if you make under $100,000 a year, you're going to have a dramatic, you're going to see a dramatic shift. Right now, basically the plan is up to $100,000, you'll pay maximum of 2%. So the first 50,000 is exempt. The next 50,000 is 2%. So you pay $1,000 on the 100,000.
Okay.
So if you're going to have to pay a little bit more on sales tax on services, that's offset by the $7,000 bill that you're not going to have to pay on income tax if you made 100,000. Right. So it balances out. And then on corporations, the largest number of corporations in California are little guys. The muffler shop, the auto shop. They got a corporation to protect themselves from getting sued.
Right. The liability.
Liability.
Right.
And they get stuck with a tax bill. Those things should get taken away to take the burden off of these guys. That's a cost too. So you raise money here, and it's really a whole restructuring to rebalance. And the bottom line is this. We're going to come up with an app when this is all over and we finish it that shows to people, here's what your taxes bill would be for, and here's what your tax bill's after. Because no one believes people when you talk about taxes.
Now, in the past, we've seen the Parsky Commission come out with ideas, the Davis Commission come out with ideas. Generally, with tax reform ideas, those had been revenue neutral.
Right.
So a rejiggering, but no new money coming in.
Right.
You're looking to bring more money in.
$10 billion.
Yeah, and so talk to us about that strategic decision, because that changes the debate.
That's right. That's right. But what it does is it puts the money in places that give people opportunity. It's not just, oh, we're going to give you a check. It's $1 billion to the state university system, $1 billion to the UC system that are just dying in this boom and bust system that we've got. It's money to local governments so that when the governor says you got to pay down that state teachers retirement system, the schools have no money for it. We're going to give them the money to pay that. It goes in the community. My view is that people won't write a check when they think it's to Sacramento or the moon, but if they can feel it and see it and touch the value, they get value for their money, they're willing to write a check. So if you want to repave your sidewalks, you can do a bond. If you want to get rid of in Los Angeles, the business net receipts tax, there'll be money for that.
Are you looking to change the formula to pass a bond, or this is a separate discussion?
Separate discussion.
Okay, so the Parsky Commission, the Davis Commission, literally they came out with great fanfare and then they got shelved.
What they always do. I had speakers commissions on regionalism and initiative process and the like. What I found is, and one of the reasons when you asked me the question of why I went back into government, I spent a huge amount of time with Cal Forward, with the Think Long Committee, and they have all this fanfare, but they don't get the attention. The political industrial complex has a whole system designed to deal with bills. So I could take the exact report and put it in bill form, and everybody pays attention. Okay, now I've got this in bill form, and I got their attention.
So talk to us about that. You got here, a lot of fanfare, you dropped this bill really quickly.
First day.
First day. So what now? I mean, how do you make sure, look, I know you're a force, but that being said, there's 120 of you, there's a governor. How do you make sure that this bill continues to gain momentum and actually sees the light of day?
Let's start with its purpose. The governor said we had a fiscal emergency. The governor asked the people during that fiscal emergency to write a check to pay for stuff to help us out.
And that's coming due.
Right. And he said this is temporary. I believe the governor when he said it's temporary, and he's not going to go past that. So our question from all of this homework was, well, if that's not going to happen, what should we do with tax policy going forward? What's the honorable, ethical question that we owe to the people? And we owe hard work to the people to figure out the future. So when this goes away, what should the future code? And what I'm trying to do with all my experience and all my years is to have a discussion, bipartisan, honest, honorable discussion of what the future should be.
Yes or no, in 2016, will this bill be law?
I have no idea.
His name is Bob Hertzberg. He's a member of the California State Senate. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.